Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. This video is for the beginners. I know how frustrating it is to start something new and just run into every wall possible. So I'm going to make this super easy for you. If you don't know me, I'm Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. We train over 1 million producers around the world. So I'm going to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, Ariana Grande, French Montana, Young Thug, YG, Lil Baby, Trippie Redd, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, a long list of people that I haven't even listed yet. So in this video, I'm going to show you everything from installing the proper settings, the plugins, the piano roll, the channel rack, the playlist, and the mixer. Those are the main bullet points. Now, I'm not going to go through everything because you don't need to know everything to get started. First thing is go to image-line.com. And whenever you want to download something, they have different tabs. You know, they're probably going to move this over time. But if you hover over the help, you can go to where it says download. This is usually where they have the latest safe version of the software. So to keep it short, you can download this. And I'm on Mac right now. I'll show you guys how to do this on PC to install. All right, the PC process is pretty simple. Just hit download and then check your downloads folder. Keep in mind, whatever browser you're using, you need to make sure you go to that specific download folder. We're just going to hit next on all the installers here. Don't change anything. So here's where it's going to install the program, where it keeps all the program files. So just keep this default, or you could just copy that location if you guys change that by accident. Okay, hit next. Now we're going to install the 64-bit VST. So here's my own folder, but I'll show you guys a way where you can go to the default folder. It's program files, common files, and then I think it's called VST. So let's open up the browse. Let's go to our hard drive. Let's go to program files. Then we're going to find common files. In the common files directory, we're going to look for the VST2 folder. This is where we're going to store all our VSTs. Just hit OK and then hit next. So here's the file location so you guys can copy it. So just keep hitting next through the program. Once installation is complete, we're going to open up FL Studio 21. You might get some errors depending on your computer setup. Here, we're not going to unlock FL, just click X. Next, we're going to go up to where it says Options. And then we're going to go to Manage Plugins, and let's install some plugins if you have third-party plugins from other companies outside of ImageLine. So what we have to do is go to where it says Plugin Search Paths and hit the folder with the plus icon to add new locations to this zone. Any folder in this zone, it scans these folders to look for plugins. Plugins usually come in a .dll format. Let's hit the plus button and let's navigate to our VST folder that we just created. Let's go to our PC. Let's find our hard drive. Let's go to program files. Let's go to common files and then find the VST2 folder. And this is where our plugins would be. Let's select that folder. And then basically you could select another folder. So I'll show you another way too. Sometimes you might install 32-bit. So let's go to program files x86 and then go all the way to where it says common files and then go to their VST2. So it's two pathways depending on 32-bit versus 64-bit. It's a little confusing on PC, I understand, but that's for 32-bit stuff. And now we're going to scan plugins. Just turn off verify plugins and copy my settings and just hit find install plugins up top. And then now it will scan those folders to look for your plugin. So it's a little bit tedious on PC compared to Mac. So let's just click here. It's pretty simple on Mac, but I'm going to go to the PC install. And no, you don't need to buy a specific version, but if you do want to buy FL Studio, I'd highly recommend the Producer Edition because you don't need like everything else. Just trust me, Producer Edition, and you could buy the plugins from their store one by one. It's the best way, in my opinion, if you're a music producer. So let's download this and let's open it up from our download folder. During installation, if you're unsure of anything, like any of the options, just click the default things and don't change anything. Okay, so on Mac, you just double click, you gotta, let it scan. Again, I'll do this on PC, so no worries. It's pretty straightforward on PC. The only thing is Mac and PC have different folders. So Mac kind of puts everything in one location, whereas PC, you have to like know where stuff is. And I'll show you guys how to install plugins too. So I need to write that to my list. So as this is writing files, we're gonna skip ahead. If you guys are upgrading from older versions of FL Studio, no worries, it won't override your old FL Studio. It installs as a completely new app. Okay, so let's open this up. Now you might see a slightly different screen, like a demo song that pops up, but mine just tells me I'm in trial mode. No worries if you're in trial mode. I'll leave a link below to a video that shows you how to get the most out of trial mode, to basically where it's like a paid mode. Okay, so right here, we're gonna go to email address and password. If you guys don't see this, go to where it says help, and then go to where it says about. And then over here it says unlock FL Studio. And then here you can use your email that you use to sign up on image-line.com and your password to unlock your account and get your license and everything. So that's how you do it through this tab. All right, so let's say you're more savvy and you have third-party plugins. I'm going to show you how to get these first. Let's go to where it says options up top, go to manage plugins, and then it will pull up this pop-up called the plugin manager. Basically, whenever you add a folder with this little plus icon, you can add folders for FL Studio to search for your usually VST files. Okay, so if you're on PC, you're going to be working with VST and they're going to be in .dll form. If you're on Mac, you're going to be looking for the .vst or VST3 file. That's neither here nor there. But basically, you just add a folder of where the thing would be. So again, this is why I recommend you don't change default stuff, because by default, it scans these folders for you. Okay, so I'll show you on PC. It's a little more complex, but I'll show you on PC. So long story short, if you want to find out where your plugins are on Mac, let's just click this folder icon, and we're going to go all the way up to our Mac. I think you can right click up here or just click the drop down and go to where it says your Studio Mac, or excuse me, your Mac. Go to Macintosh and go to library. And then we're going to sort by the name, go to audio, and then we're going to go to plugins, and it's two folders, VST and VST3. So most of the time you're going to be working with VST2 plugins. You don't need to memorize anything I'm saying. Just use one of these folders. It really doesn't matter. It's just for your own organization purposes. So we're going to go into VST, and then this is where we can find our plugins. Okay. So for example, I just loaded up our Hercules plugin at busyworksbeats.com. If you go to busyworksbeats.com/Hercules, and then you will search this folder and it will be in here. So that's how you can do those things. Okay, so that's where your VSTs are located. And from there, basically, you're going to click the scan options. We're going to combine VST. You can click this on if you get a lot of pop-ups. And anytime your plugins aren't showing up or they show up with these little question marks, click rescan plugins with errors. Usually you don't need to check that. So mine, I keep it pretty simple. And then also up top, you can click verify plugins. Again, if you run into like these little question mark things right here when you're scanning, just turn off verify plugins. It should fix whatever is getting stuck. Okay, and then you hit find install plugins, and then it will go through these folders looking for those file types that I talked about. Again, if you're on Mac, it's looking for a .vst or a VST3 or whatever format that you guys have in your folders. If you're on PC, it's looking for the .dll. Okay, so that's what it's doing right now. So it's just scanning those folders going through. So again, what we could do is, let's say it gets stuck. You could always click cancel plugin scan or skip plugin. Usually skip plugin doesn't always work. So I just cancel and then I turn off verify plugins. Okay, so little things. Okay, let's get you guys excited. I know that was the boring stuff. Let's say you just want to make beats. Okay, firstly, you have 5 buttons up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 buttons, if you ever get lost in FL Studio, chances are you got to click one of these buttons, okay? And if you ever get messed up to where it's like completely messed up, go to View and then go to Arrange Windows and go to Realign. That will kind of reset everything. Okay, so I'm going to give you things that I just do for my own workflow. So let's start with some settings. Actually, before the settings, let's like show you guys how to do stuff. These 5 buttons, I have a longer video that's like an hour and something that goes through everything about FL Studio 21. I'll leave it below because it's too in depth for this. I just want you guys to get started, not to like go into everything about everything. All right, so these 5 buttons, pardon me, we're going to click right here. This is a channel rack. Let's click this plus icon. Now I like to have mine in what's called the simple format. So if you click the plus icon and look over here to where it says category, simple, and tree, if you have categories, it shows up like this. And I just don't like my stuff like randomly like that for many different reasons. So I keep it on simple. So that's why mine looks like this. So click the plus icon. If you don't see a plugin that you installed, click more plugins. And then you have to make sure you click the little star next to the plugin for it to show up into your list. Okay, so that's why your plugins might not be showing up. So click that, and then you can load a plugin. Let's load up my new plugin called Hercules at busyworksbeats.com/Hercules. And now we have this plugin. I don't have my MIDI controller plugged up, but I can use my typing keyboard. So this button right here, if you turn this on, you could actually use your QWERTY keyboard to play notes. Okay, let's turn this down a little bit. And basically you can also right click here and select different templates. So let's say you want to play only in the key of minor. You can right click on where it says minor natural, right click on the octave. I usually keep these at C and 4. If you ever mess up, just click reset and it will put it back to normal. So by default, it's set to layout piano. Octave is C, or excuse me, octave is 4 and the root key is C. Okay, so that's how you could just right click to change any of these. So let's say I want to write in the minor pentatonic over a melody. I'll just right click. And let's say you want to do the blues scale to do like a little blues riff. Let's grab a guitar. That was super loud. Let me turn this down. And now we have the blues scale. Okay, so that's usually what I do to do stuff quickly, because playing that on a MIDI controller would just be kind of difficult actually. So I use this sometimes to do more like stuff that I can't really do on a MIDI controller. Okay, and then again, you could always, there's more to it. I just don't want to bore you guys to tears, honestly. So let's get to making a beat. Okay, so first thing we want to do is add a sound like we just did. Go to the channel rack right here. We're going to click this plus icon. Some plugins you don't want to sleep on are called, where's it at? Morphine. And then there's a plugin called Sawer. These are really good for like West Coast and hip hop. So Morphine, Sawer, and Toxic Biohazard is another great plugin. So don't sleep on those. Some people love Sakura. I'm not a like huge Sakura fan, but some people love, where's it at? Sakura. And then a lot of people are now talking about this Flex plugin. So Flex is going to give you pretty good, decent starting sounds. You're going to go to the free tab, download where it says Essential Pianos, Essential Strings, all the essential packs. Just download these, and then you'll have access to better sounds, in my opinion. So the default sounds are cool, but I think the essential packs are a little bit better. Okay, so that's where you can get sounds from. So I'm not going to download anything right now because it'll take up time. So let's just go to like General MIDI Library, and let's go to some kind of piano. Let's see if they even have a piano on here. Let's do Piano Bright. Okay, so now you can use your typing keyboard. That's not what I thought it would sound like. Okay. There we go. Okay, so let's say we want to add notes to this sound. What I would recommend, I used to do this way differently in the past, and it was just, I didn't realize how tedious I was doing it. So just right click here and right click your record button and just turn on automation notes and audio. Trust me, over time, it will save so much time. I was doing it to where a pop-up would pop up every single time and ask you, what did you want to do every single time? I didn't realize how tedious I was doing and stuff. So it's just so much easier to just right click here, select recording filter, automation notes, audio, and just copy my settings up here. Okay, so now we're going to click on the metronome. If I hit the space bar, that's going to basically play the track, and then space bar stops the track. Okay, so that's like a quick preview way of doing stuff. Now what we're going to do, we need to create notes for the piano. So let's let's left click on the record button. And because we have this typing keyboard, we could just kind of type notes in. So I'll type in some notes. So let's hit the record button, make sure the metronome's on. By default, it's at 140 BPM. And I'm just going to play notes on my keyboard. Okay, so now I'm going to hit stop or spacebar, and we can click in here to fix any notes. So some of the shortcuts you guys need to know, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but let's go to the slice tool right here. Hit shift, right click, and I'll teach you all this in my longer video that's like an hour long, but it's very technical. So I'll leave that link below. Hit shift, right click to get rid of anything over this line, because if it goes over the line, it will keep going and it won't sound on beat, trust me. Okay, so slice anything that's over the bar. And now we can turn off the record button. Okay, so we're gonna hit Alt Q, that's quantize. There's different quantizes. You could hit Alt Q or Control Q. It just depends on the style. In short, whenever you have your snap to grid on, I'm gonna keep mine on 1/2 beat. I like to produce at higher BPMs, and that 1/2 beat, it just makes the grid easy to look at. If you're at lower BPMs and you have to slice your grid up to this, it's going to be very difficult to add notes because there's so many microscopic little places that you could add a note. It's going to be very difficult. So I would recommend for beginners, use higher tempos and then change your snap to grid to snap 1/2 beat. Trust me, over time, it'll just make stuff a lot easier. Okay, so whenever your snap to grid is 2, you could hit Control Q to quantize it to that specific snap to grid. That's the difference between Alt Q and Control Q. You don't need to memorize that though. Okay, now we're gonna go to the settings. I'm gonna show you guys some settings that I would highly recommend. So in the piano roll, this is where you would need to apply the settings. So click in here, go to View, and then we want the key labels on all notes, because by default it's like this, and you would never know what note you're playing. I hate that way it starts. It makes zero sense as a producer because everything's sideways, so it's impossible to know what you're doing. So click here, go to View, and go to Key Labels, All Notes. Okay, I think it's set to root notes by default. And let's go here back to view, and we want ghost channels on. Later, you'll learn what ghost channels are. Don't worry about it right now. Note grid highlights, if that's not already on. You guys can just copy these settings. Nothing major, but main thing is just turn the key labels to all notes. Trust me, it will save you so much headache over time. That's really the only setting in the piano roll you guys need to set. As far as the overall settings, let's go to options, and I'll go through these tabs, but I'm not going to bore you guys to tears. Let's go to options here, and let me pause the video to get my MIDI controller real quick. All right, so let's say you're rich and you have money for a MIDI controller. Let's go to options, let's go to MIDI settings, and you'll see it listed here. If you don't see it listed here, you have to download what's called a driver for your MIDI controller specifically from the manufacturer. So that's something that's not through the ImageLine website. You have to go to the company, like if you have a Novation controller or any other controller out there, you have to go download what's called a driver. A driver basically lets the hardware communicate with the computer. That's basically what it does. Okay. So that's what I have is a Novation FL Key 37. If you guys are looking for recommendations, FL Key 37 or 37 key, my best MIDI controller I've had, period. Okay. So I've had a lot of them, and this is the best one I've had so far. If you want weighted keys and you're like a real piano player, I would recommend the Arturia. I think it's called the Keylab MK2. It has 88 keys, it's weighted, and it's a nice feel. It feels like a real piano. Okay, so if it depends on which style, but if you're like a producer just getting straight to it, FL Key 37 all day long. Okay, click on the, where it says MIDI out, and just click this enable button. Okay, so now when I hit notes on my MIDI controller, it will trigger the piano. Everything else is kind of arbitrary right now. Now, if you're more advanced, I'll show you how to use what's called a MIDI out controller. All right, so I plugged up my Motu, I think it's called the Express 128. Basically, I can plug up a MIDI interface, it's called, to my computer. And my computer can send out MIDI signal or notes that it plays and velocities that it plays. It goes to the MIDI interface, and then the MIDI interface sends that signal to my real keyboards, like my hardware keyboards that I have in real life. Those hardware keyboards they have what 1/4-inch inputs that are plugged back up into my audio interface, it's called. And then it triggers the keyboard to play real audio, and then I record the real audio into my DAW. So the way you would do that is use the MIDI output. So input is when you're adding notes into the computer. Output is when you're sending notes out of the computer. So this is for more advanced folks, but you basically just click on your thing and then change your port to match your MIDI out. Okay, so I know I'm going advanced here. Click the plus icon and then load up the plugin called MIDI out. Where is it at? MIDI out. Okay, and then make sure this port number right here matches, so that's 0, and then we're gonna go back to MIDI out, make sure that matches this number here, port 0. So now, whenever I play this MIDI out plugin, it will trigger that specific channel to go talk to my keyboards. I know that's advanced, and nobody needs to know that. As a beginner, I'm just letting you guys know the difference between MIDI input and output. Okay, nextly, let's go to audio. So you may have heard me use the word audio interface. This is a device you use to allow your computer to accept more inputs, because by default, most computers have USB 3 or USB ports. In short, you can't plug your keyboard into your computer. There's no button to let you plug in your roll-in keyboard. Okay, so you have to buy the separate thing that accepts what are called 1/4-inch cables, audio cables. And then those signals that are captured into the audio interface go into your computer. So basically, it's just an audio interface is a way to capture hardware and get it into the computer, in short, because not everything has a USB tied to it, especially in audio. You have different cable types, and I'm not going to bore you guys to tears. So there's XLR cables for microphones and for speakers, and you have 1/4-inch inputs, cables for your synthesizers, and then you have unbalanced 1/4-inch cables for your instruments like a guitar. Okay, so those are the cable types you're going to deal with, and those cables go into a thing called an audio interface. So I'm using the Universal Audio Apollo 8 and the Apollo X8 right now. They're daisy chained, and that's what my audio interface is. So long story short, if you don't have money for all that, don't worry. The first thing you need to buy as a music producer is get your DAW, then get headphones. That's it. That's all you need as a producer. And I would recommend the Apple iPhone headphones. You don't need any super fancy headphones right now. You don't even need an audio interface. Just the computer, your DAW, headphones. That's literally all you need as a music producer, even on a super high level. You don't need all this extra stuff that we have, trust me. Okay, so click here and then you could select now I'm on Mac, so on PC you have different things. I think it's called like default drivers, and then it has ASIO. So I'll do a different video about if you're trying to do videos on PC, like for like YouTube and stuff, you have to select, there's a little process. Okay, so long story short, If you're on PC, I'm going to do a different video cap here, but you want to look for where it says FL Studio Audio or your Audio for all device. And if you're on Mac, you just select your audio interface. If you have nothing, just select default audio device. You'll be fine. What I would recommend for the buffer length, if you do have an audio interface, I like to start at like 128. 88 is when I record vocals, so I'll go all the way down to 88. But 128 is a decent spot for recording MIDI and kind of vocals at the same time for videos. And anything above that is kind of latent, meaning you'll hear a delay when you start pressing the keys, and it throws you off as a producer, in my opinion. So when you're mixing, I'll go up to at least 1024 samples, okay? So that's the general categories. So if you're mixing, I'd start at 1024 samples. When you're recording, all the way down to 88 if you don't have a bunch of video stuff going on. And then 128 is great for just overall production, okay? So those are the numbers that I'd recommend. I could bore you guys to tears again. Your sample rate has to match your audio interface, or else you're gonna get like weird artifacts. So mine is set to 48 kilohertz. Yours might be 44.1. There's no right number, I'm just matching my audio interface. Okay, so there's no magical number. 44.1 was even recommended by mastering engineers. So we don't need to get into the science. So on the general tab, I keep this all normal. I don't really mess with a bunch of stuff here. If anything, I turned off the colorful waveforms. I just don't like that feature. And really anything else. Now, if you guys are tired of constantly taking the, the limiter off of the FL Studio mixer, you can scroll down to where it says default template. It's a startup project. So you could just select empty, and then your default template could be empty. That way you don't have a bunch of plugins loaded up for you or a bunch of sounds loaded up that you have to delete every single time. Okay. Everything else, again, I don't touch the default stuff. Like it's really arbitrary stuff. Nextly, file. This is where you add sounds to your browser. Okay. So basically anytime you have a sound kit, you're going to go to this file tab. You're going to click on a folder and you're going to find your sound kit on your computer. That could be anywhere. So the easiest thing I'd recommend is just if you have an external hard drive, actually wherever you keep your sounds, keep them in one big folder. So mine is called the Friend Sounds folder. And this Friend Sounds folder is on an external hard drive. It's not plugged up right now, but long story short, you click this folder and you navigate to wherever your folders are. So let's say you have a let's just make one up called Drum Kits on our desktop. Okay, so now on my desktop, I have a folder called Drum Kits. And in the Drum Kits folder, whenever I download Drum Kits off of Reddit or wherever, I'm going to put them right inside of Drum Kits. We also have Drum Kits in our Discord. Go to discord.gg/busyworksbeats. Lunch77 dropped, kits from Metro, all the top producers. I can't even remember all the producers. Metro, Southside, Pierre Bourne, Kanye West, Dr. Dre, Scott Storch, just everybody, Just Blaze. Okay, so now we're going to put all those downloads into this one folder called the Drum Kits folder. Okay, and then we're going to select this folder and hit open. So now on the left side, you'll see that a new folder pops up called Drum Kits. If you don't see it, just click this little refresh icon right here and it will pop up. Okay, so now we have this Drum Kits folder. It's empty right now, and now in the browser, you can click inside and it will open up, the different trees and projects that you guys have. Okay, so that's a very simple way to handle sounds. What I used to do as a beginner is I used to just have my sounds everywhere on my computer and I would manually go through each folder, each drum kit. It was just dumb. So I should put everything into one folder, okay, so that you can access it there. Trust me, it's going to save so much time. Theme, this is, I could cover this in the everything you need to know about FL Studio 21 video. I keep mine on default for many reasons. If you like the other themes, go for it, but I keep mine on default for a very specific reason. It's for color memory. Under project, we can do this when we save the file. You don't need to mess with that. But if you ever were to try to experiment with time signature, you could switch the time signature here. So let's say you want to produce in 6/8 timing. The top number would be your numerator and the bottom number would be your denominator. So for example, if you want to produce in 6/8, you would go to 6 and then 8, and it changes your grid in the background to match this time signature. So that's for more experimental producers who want to get outside of just 4/4 timing. But as a beginner, I'd recommend keeping this on 4/4. The info is where you add the metadata for your project. So this will show up in the file. You don't need to worry about that. Okay, and the About tab is where you log in to unlock your FL Studio. All the boring stuff we have finally gotten through. Oh my God, that was boring. Okay, so now I want to show you guys the plugin. Okay, so I showed you guys Flex. Nextly, let me show you guys a couple things about the Morphine plugin. So this is really good. Now, if you're on Mac, you may have an issue with Morphine. So for the longest time, if you're on Mac, I would click here and nothing would happen. What you have to do is open up your browser and then click here. It's some kind of glitch to where, I don't know, but just letting you guys know, if you're on Mac and you can't open up stuff, Windows and FL, that's because the browser's closed. So this has really good bass sounds. Okay, so I don't have my plugins, my hard drive plugged in to make it like a dope beat right now. But in the next video after this one, I'll go through the process of making your first beat. So sound. So that's Morphine. Toxic Biohazard's really good for, I don't even know, like keyboard type sound, just kind of the other sound, synth sounds, I'll say. So it has really sounds people overlook. So try it out. So many sounds to go through. And what did I say? Sakura and Flex. Okay, so Sakura is like a string synthesizer. People like it for like more stringed organic type sounds. We could bore you to tears about the sounds, but again, in the next video, I'll go through making a beat. One thing you do need to know though is in the piano roll, how to make a major chord and a minor chord. So let me quickly teach you how to do it. Wherever you start on your key, I'm literally going to close my eyes and click here. So this is called your root note. And let's say we want to make a minor chord. We're going to count up, the chord code is called 037. I call this 037 because we're counting what are called semitones. So this is your root note. Wherever your root note is, this is 0. So now you just count up note by note. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Play all those notes together. You have a minor chord no matter where you are on the keyboard. So that's a minor chord, and the way you convert a minor chord to a major chord is 0, 4, 7. So you just take the middle note, hit shift up, and it transforms it into a major chord. Those are your two chords you're going to be using all the time. Minor and major. Very simple. Don't need to complicate it. If you want to learn more about that though, go to busyworksbeats.com/music theory. I'll show you how to make chords from nothing, and you don't need to memorize a bunch of music theory stuff like scales and all this other stuff. I get straight to what a chord is, and I show you. I have a chord code chart for you as well that maps out all the chord types. Okay, so that's the piano roll music theory that you need to know. The channel rack, again guys, I'm trying not to bore you to tears with too much information. I'm just going to give you the basics here. So in the next video, I'll go through the process of making a beat though. Okay, so over here, let's pull up some legacy drums real quick. And let's see what we got here. Kick drum. Okay, so let's say we want to make a beat. Let's right click in the browser, which is this icon right here. We're going to right click, open a new channel that will send the sound to our channel rack. You can hit Control L to send sounds to the mixer. The mixer is where you edit sounds individually. You don't want to send everything to the master track, because if you want to like turn the hi-hat down or do something with the hi-hat, like add delay, you'd have to do it over everything, and it wouldn't sound nice. So get in the habit of highlighting all your sounds, hitting Control L to send them to the mixer. You want to edit them individually. If you don't see these numbers, hit Alt M on your keyboard to hide or reveal these numbers right here. Okay, so now, you know, the workflow for me is just right click, fill each 2 steps for the hi-hat. And now you have a steady hi-hat, and you could add in more hi-hats over here and just do the same thing. Right click, fill each 2 steps. Okay, so let's add a clap. So our snare, I should say. Let's right click, open up a new channel, and hit Control L, send it to the mixer. Now here's where I'm going to turn the metronome on, because when you're a beginner, you need to know how to measure time. So we're going to put the snare on the 3 and the 7 count. So every time the metronome hits, it's considered a heartbeat or a beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So for trap music, we put the snare on the 3 and the 7. Let's find a kick. Sometimes they label bass drum, which is like super ancient language for a kick. So again, these aren't the greatest drums. You can get way better drums in our Discord. Just go to discord.gg/busyworksbeats. Hopefully I remember all these links. But yeah, we have drum kits from like Metro Boomin, Southside, Just Blaze. In the next video, I'll show you guys what the drums sound like. For now, we're just going to use all stock stuff, assuming you don't have anything. Okay, so here we have a bass drum. You could turn up sounds with what's called the channel volume here. This is the best way to turn up sounds for many different reasons, and turn down sounds. Okay, so now we're gonna just add a kick. Turn the metronome off to hear your beat. Let's say you're like, okay, I want the kick to hit a little bit more. Click on your bass drum, go to your pre-computed effects, turn up boost. But now in your master, you're going, if you click the mixer, we're now going into the red, it's called. So here, most people add a plugin called Fruity Soft Clipper. This is like the GOAT. We're gonna turn the threshold up. And now it creates a nice sound to where we're not clipping anymore. You can do the same thing with your snare. Go to the pre-computed effects, kind of turn it up. For the hi-hat, we can do what's called fade out the sound, so it's a little bit shorter. So we can make a little beat, I guess. So let's click on the piano, turn the metronome on. I'm gonna right click and go to a low octave, like the third octave here. Now I'm gonna use my typing keyboard to record a little like melody. Okay, so now we have that kind of like ratchet melody. Let's hit Control Q or Alt Q to quantize. We can also click in here. Let's say we want to drop it down an octave, hit Control down. We can also hit Control in the piano roll, that rhymed. Hit Shift, left click to highlight the note to duplicate, hit Control up. It's a little too distorted. So I'm gonna get rid of the bottom one, just hit Control. On Mac, you gotta hit Control X. If you're on PC, just hit Delete. I said I wasn't gonna make a beat, and here we go with the beat. So let's just add these random sounds, even though I didn't even like do sound selection. Okay, let's go up an octave. Let's right click, switch the octave to like a higher octave. Let's record this. Okay, so let's click in here, hit Alt Q to quantize. The notes are like in a higher octave. Let me find out we're about to make a bop. Let's go to Toxic Biohazard. Let's figure out what kind of note. Again, I picked random sounds. I'm just showing you guys how you can have fun in FL. It doesn't have to be serious all the time. So now I'm gonna record this note. Okay, so this is kind of drone in there. Hit Control Q to quantize, and again this goes over that bar. So what's going to happen is, see how it just keeps playing? To prevent that, we're going to go to our slice tool, hit Shift right click to get rid of anything over that line. Kind of want my piano lower, so let's click back in the piano, hit Control down. So you see these grayed out things, those are called ghost channels. Basically you can see the MIDI from other instruments on the same pattern. Turn down that Morphine plugin. This is why I said use the channel volume. Let's pan it to the right, the left of me. So it sounds repetitive because we only made one bar worth of stuff. We're at 140 BPM, it's only one bar. Let's record this string at a very high note. We made a little hack beat using random sounds. So it just shows how like in FL Studio, anything is possible for the most part. Let's just turn that down. Okay, so let's say you just hacked your way through and made a little pattern like this. Now the older versions of FL, you would have to copy the pattern, make changes, copy the pattern. To do that now, you just right click here, where it says pattern 2, and we're gonna split by channel. This will create a new pattern for each sound. So now if we left click and kind of go through, you'll see each thing that we created is now separated on its own pattern. That's important because when we go to the playlist, which is this icon, we can now use these like puzzle pieces. So if you want to arrange, you got to go to song mode, hit spacebar. And let's say you want the intro with just the piano. Okay, you can hit Control B to latch paste all the way through. It's a lot faster. And then we want this lead to come in, let's say around here for the hook. for 4 things. And then we want to hit control, highlight this, hit shift, left click and drag it over because we want it to separate it. I'm getting tongue twisted. Let's add the drone sounds for the hook. So again, the reason we're separating the sounds is to arrange it like a puzzle. So now I'm just grabbing the puzzle pieces and arranging this. So I'm hitting control to highlight, hit shift to duplicate, left click and drag it over. So the hi-hats, we're going to drag these in. Control B is our latch paste. And we're going to do that for the snare. It's a lot easier to produce drums like this. Okay, now everything doesn't need to be separated. Like most of the time, I'll just keep my kick and snare on the same pattern. I don't usually have them separated. 808 is usually separated. But yeah, you'll learn beat making stuff in the next videos. I also have a free course called the Better Beat Maker course. Just go to busyworksbeats.com/betterbeatmaker. I have so many links to remember that I'm going to forget probably. So I'm going to link all the links below so that I don't forget myself. But it's busyworksbeats.com/betterbeatmaker. It's a free course on beat making. So this is called arrangement. So let's say you want a sub bass. Now we're getting into I'm just getting excited that the beat sounded kind of funny. Okay, so it reminds me of like one of these hip hop records out. So what we're gonna do, let's say you want a sub bass to thicken up this track. Click on your piano, click inside the piano roll, hit Control A to select all the notes, or you could just go to the channel rack. I know I'm moving a little quick here, but go to the channel rack, hit Control C, and then we're gonna go right click, find first empty. We're gonna click the plus icon, go to a plugin called 3X OSC. Turn down oscillator 2 and 3's volume, turn down the coarse pitch of oscillator 1. It's basically a sine wave. Hit Control L, hit Control V to paste. So what does this do? It creates a sub bass. It's so low you can't even hear it. So click inside the piano roll, hit Control up till we can hear it. So it just creates that bass tone. And we can add this underneath the track. Now, if you're on iPhone headphones or like phone headphones, you might not be able to hear this. So we're going to put this in the playlist. Once you have your pattern selected, all you have to do is go to your playlist. I use the paint tool a lot and I keep my snap to grid on bar mode. And so basically you could just left click and just add this in like so. Let's go to and now you have that bass layer. Okay, so the last thing we'll touch into is the mixer. Now these are all going to be different videos because it's just too much to explain about everything. If you click the mixer, basically it works from top down. So if you don't see these little things on the right, hit this button right here. It will show these little things called slots or inserts. You click here and you pull up any plugin that you guys want. I'm not going to get into like how to mix right now because it's too much to explain. But you click here, pick your plugin, and it loads right up on that specific sound. That's why we separate the sounds in the mixer. Okay, so if you wanted to add Fruity Soft Clipper only to your kick, you could go here, add Fruity Soft Clipper to your kick instead of the entire track. But that creates a different sound. And anytime you want to turn off a plugin, you click here. You could either click the green button right here or just turn off the plugins, the entire chain, it's called, of plugins, with this button right here. So there's a lot to explain about mixing and mastering. There's too much to explain in one video. I just wanted to show you guys how to like navigate and create a workflow for yourself. And again, in part 2 of this series, I'm going to show you guys how to build a beat from scratch. Just wanted to introduce you to FL Studio because I know how frustrating it is when it's just too much information or not enough information. So I wanted to make this guy for you guys in the beginning. So we'll make this a series. I'll show you guys in the next video how to make your first beat. Subscribe if you're new. Go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio. I have a bunch of free sounds, free project files, free presets. There's so much in there, MIDI, a lot. It's basically a producer's oasis. Just go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio. And again, join us on Discord. The link's below. Peace.